Okay, video 2 of question marks for this week. Now let's dive into JSX. So the last one we kind of set the stage. What is React? What is its purpose? Now let's start getting into some of the syntax. Now in the upcoming slides, I will have links to basically to the React tutorials to give you a nice handheld way of easing into JSX. If you have never touched this before, it's very, very helpful. Um, I'm going to be tweaking them slightly just for demo purposes, but honestly, this is all coming straight from the React people. And again, things have changed over time. So if you did React like 5 years ago and now you're just coming back to it, you might want to revisit some of these as well, just to make sure you're up to date with the latest syntax and approaches. So first and foremost, let's talk JSX. So I've been throwing this acronym around a little bit. This is basically still JavaScript, but this is going to be something that we use in React to generate elements called components, basically make reusable code, and it's going to make life seemingly harder but easier at the same time. So these are just syntax extensions is all they really are. And again, highly recommend reading over some of these links. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, like event handling, rendering, forms. I will leave that to you basically to read through. Um, Conditional rendering, for instance. Hopefully you hear the word conditional and think, it's probably an if statement or a switch statement. Yeah, basically what it is, just we're rendering a element based on some internal logic. But again, I will let you handle that. Other thing too, I'm going to be doing all of these demos in CodePen instead of JS Fiddle. I think I mentioned in the last video I was getting really frustrated with JS Fiddle. It just wasn't working for some reason, and that was purely my fault. Nothing wrong with JS Fiddle. But CodePen was a little bit more seamless for me, at least when I was recording this. When I'm done with this video, I might go back and do JS Fiddle. I might, you know, technology aside, the goal is to show you some working code. Other reason why we're using this instead of a local build environment, um, if you recall, in my last video, I would make a little joke or a quip about how long it takes React to build. I didn't want to do a simple little demo here and then wait 20 minutes and then do it again. So just these quick little bits are going to be up in CodePen, and honestly, these are things that you would just include in your React application, but we can get that up and running here. So if you want to do this and follow along, so again, I'm using CodePen here. We need to tell it to use the JavaScript preprocessor Babel, and we need to include the various modules that we need. So I've got a couple screens here to hopefully help you out with that. I'm going to click Settings, and we get that view here. I'm not logged in. I'm not going to save this, so I don't have to worry about any of that. But I need to go to JS. I need to pick Babel, and you see the other preprocessors as well. And then I also need to add in React, and I need to add in React DOM. So these are basically two modules which will tell CodePen he's using React. Okay, so then you see it turns into Babel up here, and life is still good. I can say console.log hi, and this is still going to work just fine. Hi. We're not going to really use the console too much though. Let's get rid of that. So back to the demo. Now I'm probably going to flop back and forth between having this on screen or off screen just so that I can type it. But first thing that we're going to look at here is our first component. So I've got two variables here, const name equals Eric, const element equals h1, hello, brace name, close off h1, and then there's this react dom.render call. So let me slide this over here, and let's type this out. Now I'm going to, there's one other thing I have to do too in CodePen as well. It doesn't seem to like the root element. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's a CodePen thing, maybe it's a user error on my part, but I need to define a div, and I'm going to call it container. Okay, so just an empty div that we're going to use for our own purposes. Now, in our JavaScript, we're going to write some JSX code. Name equals Eric, so we'll just follow along. Lowercase, so const element equals, mouse out of the way, h1, hello, there, brace name, close brace, close H1. Now, one thing about this line, no quotes, not needed here, because we're just defining this element as is. And then we need to render it. And I need a semicolon. Thank you. React DOM. So this is that React-DOM module that we brought in, that render. Render. Okay. And then we need our element to render and where we are going to put it. Get element by ID container. So the reason why I'm kind of mentioning container here, and it magically appears, in all the demo examples for the links I provide, it goes to documents that get element by ID root, and it's expecting that you have access to the root of the DOM tree. For some reason, again, CodePen doesn't like that, so I just dropped a container in, and I'm just calling it container from here on out. So if there's a disparity between what you're looking at on the page and what you see here, that's why. So this is our first JSX script. Now what happened here is we wrote some JSX code, and again, we'll leave the particulars for a moment. Assume this code works is fine. This is in JSX, so the Babel library, or the Babel, preprocessor, will turn this into nice JavaScript code for us to have over here. All right, so we've got a few different things. And honestly, this is where you start seeing the, I guess not bloat, but the heaviness of a language like React, because you need a module for everything. If I want to pre-process this, I need the Babel module. If I want to interact with the DOM, I need the React-DOM module. If I want to add in unit testing, I need the Jest module. Like, it just keeps kind of ballooning, and then you start seeing that node modules directory. So if we look in node modules, look at all of these modules that are just here for the default React application. Now this wouldn't be included in your production build, but this is all in your development build. That is a crap ton of modules. And just for funsies, let's run du-sh. I'm just curious how big this folder is. So du is a command that's going to look up space taken up by a particular entity on your system. And the H is going to give me a human readable view. S, I don't remember what it does. Might just be the size. That's already taking longer than I thought, so this is going to be good. Basically, it's going through every single folder and file under that directory and pulling it up. Point is, all of the jokes or programming humor jokes that you've heard about React or Node.js applications and the ridiculous amount of packages, that's why. Okay, so 300 megs of memory are being taken up just by packages. What a world we live in. That's why I like PHP. It's nice and clean. Okay, so move this back over. So Babel I threw out there. Basically, this is just our module for compiling JSX to JS. Usually you'll have it as part of your Webpack build chain. We can ignore it if we want, right? I could turn this code manually into JavaScript if I wanted to, but you know, why would you do that? You've got a module that will take care of that for you. So that. Other thing that we have that I haven't talked about, but it was part of our build process. If you remember from last time, I ran npm run build, and towards the end, there was a bunch of information about Webpack. Basically, this is just a bundler, another module, that takes everything inside of our React application. It doesn't have to be React. Webpack works for other languages and other frameworks as well. But basically, it's going to package everything up into a.js, a.css, basically building up static assets. And pretty common to see Webpack used across the internet today. So definitely check it out a little bit and kind of dig into why we use it, because, again, with all of these modules, you want something to handle the heavy lifting for you. Yeah, so there's our CodePen. Now, something a little bit more complicated. This is from the open source textbook that we're using, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this. Now let's tweak our code a bit here. I'm going to skip the import statements because we are doing that already in our settings, but let's go ahead and build up an actual element. So here we kind of did the shortcut for creating an element. I could just as easily do something like this. So let element equals react dot create element, and so we have our create element block here. This is going to be an h1 tag. Let's give it some data. So its ID is hello there. Its class name is my class. We'll stick with the demo or the content there. I'm nodding off screen like you know what I'm talking about. And then our content is hello there world. Good enough. Okay. And then our React DOM.render is going to be the same. Now I've got an error in here somewhere. Unexpected token. Oh, okay. Yeah. I forgot a comma right there. So I need to update this actually in my slides before I release it to all of you. Otherwise, you'll all be mad at me. Okay, that is updated. Good, good, good. Re-slideshow you. And there we go. Okay. So, hello there, world. I created an element. So here I've got what the tag is. I've got some content about that tag. And I've got the content itself. Now, if I go ahead and pull open my trusty old DevTools here and I look at this element, it's a header tag. And it has a class, it has an ID. So I populate it in these little object style definition here. And here's my content. So yeah, we have our class, we have our ID, and we have our nice little element. These are not going to work if I were to uncomment them and try to include them, mainly relating to visibility of these elements and how they would react with that. So this is a little bit more of a verbose way to go ahead and define a React element. We also could have, comment this out. So this is basically going to be the same as this line. Okay, so I could say const element equals that. But I would just drop in ID equals hello there, and class name equals my class. Okay, hello there. Oops, I don't need the name anymore. Or we could leave the name in, I guess. And yeah, okay. So our class and our ID would still exist. Hello there, my class. Okay. Difference is a touch of syntax. So if we were just writing standard HTML, right, this would just be class equals, not class name. So that's where knowing the syntax is kind of worthwhile as well. Again, highly recommend you check out some of these links that I've got for you. So a little bit more complicated, but not really. I could also do something like change this to, let's uncomment or comment that, uncomment this one. All right, so right now this is going to be an h1 tag. I could also change this to an h2 tag if I wanted. This will get a little bit smaller. I could change this to a div. Now it's a div. I could change this to a paragraph tag. Basically, you get the idea, right? All of our typical HTML elements are available to us here. Just we're defining them in a slightly different way. So, yeah, this is kind of what I skimmed through for the shortened example there. All right, so that's a 14-minute video now, so I'm going to pause and come back in the next one just to break these up a bit. Anyway, we'll talk about components next. Bye, everybody.